That's right. There is so much good news, so much winning out of the Trump White House right now that the mainstream legacy media can't keep up with it.
Just when you thought it couldn't get crazier, it detonates. Karoline Leavitt has filed yet another lawsuit against The View, and now ABC is in full-blown crisis mode. Whoopi is sweating. Joy Behar, Leavitt's Sunny host, is actually quiet for once because this isn't just some viral spat. This is lawsuit number 2, illegal missile locked directly onto the network and its hosts, and their unraveling sources reveal the team at The View is scrambling in emergency meetings. Sponsors are backing out, and executives are calling it a reputation-altering catastrophe. But what exactly did Karoline unleash this time, and how did one court filing shake ABC's entire media foundation? Oh, you'll want every detail, but before we jump in, do your part, hit that like button to call out media hypocrisy, subscribe for the kind of truth bombs and mainstream dodges, and share this with someone who still thinks The View is just cozy daytime TV already. Subscribe. Perfect. Now hang on tight, it's about to get wild. Let's roll the tape. 72 hours ago, The View drops another episode, you'd assume after getting slapped with an $800 million lawsuit that's got Whoopi Goldberg nervously luring up the host would tread lightly, but no, not even close. Instead of stepping back, instead of thinking twice, instead of offering an apology or sanitized PR line, the ladies went full tilt into a tailspin on live television in front of millions. A mock Karoline again, shamelessly, cluelessly, relentlessly. Joy Behar never won to hold back lobs of first insult Trump's Gen Z talking head. The crowd laughs, the panel nods. Sunny host ton runs with it like a handoff in a relay, calls a lawsuit a choreographed gop stunt. And then Whoopi ground zero the legal mess, the same Whoopi whose courtroom tears just went viral. She grins, shifts her glasses, and drops the one-liner that sent Karoline's legal squad into overdrive. She's lucky we even let her on the show. Cue applause, cue the smug chuckles, cue the eye rolls of confidence. But what they didn't cue was a legal avalanche waiting in the wings, because while the audience ate up the sass, while producers saw a clip-worthy moment, Karoline's legal team saw admissible evidence. They didn't just blur the line, they sprinted past it. And those digs, those gleeful jabs, they weren't just snide, they were legal dynamite. Within hours, Karoline's team was dissecting the footage, scrubbing through audio, transcribing every word, aligning it with timelines already submitted in court. Every frame of that segment turned into a trail marker leading directly to lawsuit number 2. And let's be clear, this wasn't about bruised egos. It was about proving that even under the spotlight of an active lawsuit, the hosts of The View chose to double down on the exact conduct they were being sued for brazenly, arrogantly, and recklessly. Then came the thunder. A second lawsuit dropped in federal court like a gavel from the sky. This wasn't just a follow-up. It was a calculated strike backed by a fortified legal team and a stack of damning evidence, and this time it wasn't limited to defamation. It was a declaration of war. Karoline Leavitt wasn't playing defense anymore. She was marching into court with fire. The core accusation: retaliatory defamation. Translation: they were already being sued, and instead of backing off, they escalated, taunted, humiliated, and attacked. The complaint spells it all out in brutal legal precision. These weren't random offhand remarks. They were deliberate attempts to destroy character. The charges: malicious repetition of defamatory conduct, defamation meant to intimidate, retaliation during an active legal dispute, reckless lies, career sabotage, long-term reputational wreckage, no punches pulled. And a lawsuit doesn't stand alone. It comes armed with precedent. One media law scholar cited in the filing didn't mince words. At this stage, The View's legal defense is so paper-thin they'd be smarter to skip trial and ask Karoline where to send a settlement check or direct deposit. Brutal, but it spirals further. Karoline's lawyers brought in commentary from media ethicists, legal academics, even a former federal judge, all united in disbelief. They called The View's continued mockery astonishingly ill-advised for a group already fighting a defamation suit. The whispers in Hollywood are growing louder. Whoopi might be unknowingly starring in her final season. And at ABC, it's not just a mess, it's a meltdown. Legal alarms blaring, PR teams drowning, advertisers vanishing. What they thought was the worst of first lawsuit was only the eye of the storm. Now Karoline's second wave has landed and the flood waters are rising fast.
Joy Behar calls her a 10. I mean, how dare she objectify a woman with a rating system, but it's such a typical thing from a 1.5.
Well said.
The halls of ABC aren't just buzzing anymore, they are blazing. According to multiple insiders, the View studio has transformed into an emotional battlefield. And here's the twist: it's not Karoline Leavitt pouring fuel on the fire, it's the very host who mocked her on live television, now standing in the rubble of their own creation, watching their empire fracture. For within, here's how it unraveled within 48 hours of Karoline's second lawsuit. The backstage atmosphere imploded. This wasn't gossip. This Wasn't nerves, this was chaos. Producers, those typically composed clipboard-carrying professionals, are reportedly livid, and not at Karoline, not at the lawyers of the talent they own on-air stars. One veteran producer allegedly lost it during a post-show rundown, slamming a folder and declaring, "This is what happens when no one listens." Staffers say the tension wasn't just visible, it was physical, like the walls themselves were bracing. And can you blame them? This wasn't one lawsuit anymore, it was two, each threatening brand credibility, audience trust, and ad revenue. And the bombshell, a leaked internal memo confirmed by not one but two independent sources, a document now the subject of every hushed hallway chat, an encrypted Slack message, made it crystal clear. We asked the panel to avoid inflammatory comments on this case. They didn't listen. There it is, the entire debacle in one sentence. ABC didn't stumble blindly into this disaster. They saw the warning signs, issued the caution, and still joy, crack joke. Sunny brushed it off, and Whoopi smirked her way into a legal nightmare. Now BC is in emergency mode. Sponsors are ghosting legal departments, are demanding round-the-clock updates. Producers are combing transcripts, emails, and footage like it's evidence in a criminal trial. And morale on set below zero. One Drain staffer, speaking anonymously, put it bluntly, "We used to joke about lawsuits, now we're Googling severance packages, and that dread isn't paranoia." Insiders confirm ABC has already frozen internal budgets, axed development on future segments, and shelled an upcoming major promo campaign for The View indefinitely. Security has doubled around the studio, not due to physical threats, but because the backlash is erupting like a wildfire. Angry emails, protest tweets, callers flooding the studio switchboard demanding terminations. Even longtime fans of The View, the ones who used to defend every segment, are now speaking out. One viral comment nailed it: "This show used to be about truth, now it's about tearing down anyone who disagrees." Petitions are spreading. Demands for the resignations of Whoopi Goldberg, Joy Behar, and Sunny Holland are gaining real momentum. Even ABC's board is said to be reviewing talent contracts, an ominous move in any media playbook. Meanwhile, Karoline, she said nothing, no press tour, no tweets, no camera time. She's playing the quietest, the most devastating card in the media war: silence. And right now her silence is roaring louder than a headline, because in today's world, strategic silence speaks volumes. While The View spirals in real time, Karoline Leavitt stands calmly at a distance, watching the fallout unfold. And it looks like she's just getting started. For years, mainstream networks buried stories that didn't serve their angle. For years, silence was their shield, but not this time, though. Karoline Leavitt versus The View legal inferno is too big, too viral, too damning to ignore. And that's what makes this different. This isn't celebrity drama, it's two federal lawsuits filed within weeks targeting the same show, and the resulting chaos is shaking the pillars of daytime TV journalistic ethics and the legal limits of live commentary. Even networks that typically rally behind The View or avoid amplifying conservative voices are being dragged into coverage. Why? Because the facts are irrefutable, because the backlash is relentless, because the internet isn't letting this one fade, and now legacy media is being yanked into conversation, willing or not. Journalists from MSNBC, CNN, even the New York Times are now scrambling for context, quietly reaching out to media lawyers and analysts, trying to get ahead of a story they can no longer contain. Because this isn't just scandal, this is about the edge of defamation, law, the abuse of media influence, and the future of free speech in a world where every hot take is forever one person, two lawsuits, one show. That's rare, but what makes it historic is a deliberate escalation. Karoline filed a second suit after being publicly defamed again while the first case was still active. That isn't just bold, at a legal powder keg. According to media law experts, this case could carve out new precedent, and not just the daytime talk shows. We're talking YouTubers, Twitch streamers, podcasters, influencers. Anyone with an MIC and a following could feel the aftershocks, because if Karoline wins, a threshold for what qualifies as reckless disregard for truth in the digital era just dropped dramatically. Meanwhile, Twitter has turned into a war zone. Hashtags like Karoline strikes back through The View, media accountability, justice for Karoline, and defend the truth have dominated political discourse for 3 days straight. TikTokers are resurfacing old View clips, stitching together scenes of Joy, Whoopi, and Sunny with real-time legal breakdowns. YouTubers are hosting panel streams with attorneys, PR experts, and political commentators, poring over court filings and dissecting every word aired. And here's a shift: left-leaning voices are beginning to fracture. One prominent MSNBC analyst known for defending progressive media went viral this week with a post that read, "Karoline may be controversial, but she's calling out a media problem we've ignored too long." Thousands of retweets, tens of thousands of likes, and a cascade of uncomfortable Questions now rolling into public discourse because the elephant in the newsroom is too big to dodge for years of viewing shows like it have existed inside a media bubble. They flung personal attacks, political slams, and loaded rhetoric under the safe glow of applause, soft interviews, and favorable press. But Karoline Leavitt just cut through that bubble, and now for the first time the spotlight is on the people behind the mics because this lawsuit, it's not just about Karoline, it's about media. Ethics, it's about the line between opinion and defamation. It's about the unchecked influence of massive platforms. And now that the media has been forced to confront its own reflection, the image staring back is a whole lot uglier than they expected.
So it is the belief of this White House or the White House counsel's office that the president was within his executive authority to do that. He is the executive of the executive branch, and therefore he has the power to fire anyone within the executive branch that he wishes to. There's also a case that went before the Supreme Court in 2020, Scala Law LLC versus the Customs, Bureau Protection. I would advise you to look at that case, and that's the legality that this White House was running.
And now ABC faces a nightmare scenario they never thought they'd confront, keep the show, or cut it loose inside the network's headquarters. Panic has calcified into paralysis. Multiple insider leaks confirm that ABC executives are entrenched in non-stop emergency meetings weighing a decision that could redefine their legacy. Sources say they're stuck between three brutal options. First, suspend Whoopi, Joy, and Sunny temporarily as surface level PR move meant to signal responsibility without dismantling the franchise, but critics argue it's far too little, far too late. Second, settle both lawsuits privately and painfully. That means writing massive checks, forcing public apologies, retracting statements live on air, and scrambling to stop the sponsor bleed. Expensive, humiliating, and not guaranteed to work. Third, pull the plug, cancel The View outright, and rebrand the time slot the nuclear option. And according to some insiders, it's gaining traction because the damage may already be irreversible. Why the urgency? Because the bleeding won't stop. ABC's ad sales team is reportedly in free fall as sponsors yank deals with whiplash speed. One insider claims a seven-figure contract disappeared within a day of the second lawsuit filing. Another major brand released a statement reading, "We will not associate with programming under active defamation litigation. Audience trust vanishing. Social sentiment flipped. The same fans who once applauded spicy takes are now demanding heads roll, and legal analysts are sounding the alarm. If you don't act fast, you'll be trapped in court battle for half a decade. ABC once thought itself untouchable, that talk shows lived in a consequence-free zone. But Karoline Leavitt just proved the opposite, that even the giant can fall, that accountability has a price. So now the question is yours. Did Karoline Leavitt just rewrite the rules of media responsibility for the second time in 1 month? Is this the moment legacy media finally loses its unchecked grip? Should ABC pull the plug before The View drag the whole network down with it? Drop your take in the comments. I'm watching closely because this story, it's bigger than Karoline. It's about every person who's ever been mocked, dismissed, or shouted over by a media machine drunk on its own power. That machine is faltering now, glitching, cracking, collapsing, because Karoline didn't just clap back. She returned with receipts, legal firepower, and unmatched precision.
While I vowed to provide the truth from this podium, we ask that all of you in this room hold yourselves to that same standard. We know for a fact there have been lies that have been pushed by many legacy media outlets in this country about this president, about his family, and we will not accept that. We will call you out when we feel that your reporting is wrong or there is misinformation about this White House.
And what did The View do? They laugh, they mock, they roll their eyes, and now they're in full-blown panic mode, scrambling to patch it all up with half-hearted apologies and frantic PR spins, hoping the storm passes with a shrug and a segment change. But Karoline, she's not flinching. No interviews, no press tour, no self-pity. She's letting the facts do the talking, and the facts are thundering. So before you scroll past this moment, ask yourself if one woman, one young conservative without a single corporate shield can take down $1 billion media empire twice. What does that say about the true strength of the media's glass castle? And what does it say about where the real power lies now? That's why this moment matters, not just for Karoline, not just for Whoopi, but for everyone watching on the sidelines, quietly wondering if maybe, just maybe, this is the start of a media reset, a new chapter where truth actually pushes back. So here's your final call to action. Smash that like button if you're fed up with hypocrisy, bullying, and elitist media bubbles. Subscribe right now if you want to stay 10 steps ahead of the narratives. They are desperate to hide. Share this with someone who still thinks The View is just light-hearted daytime noise, because clearly this show has morphed into a legal grenade wrapped in studio lighting. And above all, don't look away, because this is no longer about one lawsuit. This is a battle over narrative control. And Karoline Leavitt, she's not just holding the line. She's rewriting the script. Stay locked and subscribe. Now the next bombshell is coming, and if The View thought this was over, they're in for a brutal W.